Hey everybody, and welcome to the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy, sitting here with engineer and producer extraordinaire Maddie Rosenberg and Jen Hamoud, trusty assistant, future engineer extraordinaire. So we're ready to go. Quite a week with these hearings. It just seems like it's coming at us at 100,000 miles an hour. And there's an incredible amount of information, and it's impossible for me at this point to sit back and think, how is Trump not going to be indicted? It just seems like the case is being made so thoroughly, so effectively. And I got to say, I love the optics of Benny Thompson, Chairman Benny Thompson, sitting flanked by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, because we know that the other side keeps talking about this witch hunt and it's partisan, and you get the feeling when these guys talk, it's like it's like this committee is made up of like Bernie Sanders and his family, right? That's the impression they want you to have. Like this is just one libtard after another on a wild goose chase. With no evidence and nothing to back it up, and it's just the opposite. The thing that I keep going back to in my own head is just how easy it is for people to believe what they want to believe, despite facts and evidence and reality, which is the most important thing. The truth is, every single one of the people who testified is not just a Republican, but a Trump appointee. You're talking about everybody that was in the upper echelons of the Justice Department, his cabinet, various aides, his daughter, Ivanka. Yet there's still people that look at all that. Look at Cheney, look at Kinzinger, and still call it a witch hunt. I guess we're dealing with levels of delusion that we've never, ever witnessed outside of the Manson girls and Waco and any other cult you want to mention. But watching these hearings, and this week there's been two now. And just getting back to Kinzinger for a second, just as a human being, I get so upset when I hear the criticisms of him. I mean, this is a guy he's Air Force Special Ops, right? Suited up to defend his country. Has been a conservative his whole life, put his life on the line for his country. And he's called a rhino. His character is assassinated. His conservatism is questioned. His patriotism is maligned. How is that possible? How does someone who isn't certifiably nuts look at him and say, okay, this guy's legit? I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you watch it, Maddie, do you get a sense that those optics and having Cheney, who, I mean, we don't have to talk about question her bona fides. Like, you're talking about two seriously, staunchly conservative people. Do you think it's having an impact? Not on the nuts, but on, the moderates and people in the middle.
Yeah, in the beginning, I thought, oh, this is not going to have any impact because the first hearing. Now we're up to the fifth hearing, and I feel like, yeah, this is actually having an impact on the edges, and it's having an impact when I troll Fox News and I hear Neil Cavutos actually say, as a matter of fact, that, Trump didn't win the election. And just hearing that permeate, no, it's not going to permeate, Laura Ingraham or those things, or the nuts, as you say. But I think it is actually having an impact. And I think, the horrible thing is what you just said, that these people are being maligned who are doing their duty to the country, and you see someone like Liz Cheney, they're getting death threats that are escalated to the point where they need extra security. It's awful, but I think it's a cult.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a cult. It's a cult of personality for sure. You know, the thing about the cult mentality is, and this is something I can't stop thinking about because it just seems so freaking crazy. And I understand why Trump does what he does and how he acts and why he acts the way he acts. But in order to believe him, in order to believe the election was stolen, especially now after a couple, 2-3 weeks of hearings, you literally have to believe that everyone in the universe is lying except Donald Trump. Everyone. Everyone from his daughter to his former Attorney General Barr, who we know for most of his tenure cupped Trump's balls. Everyone. They're all lying. I mean, if there happens to be any Trump supporters out there listening, and we welcome you. We welcome everyone. This is a big tent, right, Maddie?
Yes.
A huge tent.
Yes. They can call. Leave a message.
Call. They can email. If you're out there listening, think of it this way: if everyone in your life told you your spouse was cheating on you, everyone from your father and mother, your sister, your brother, your best friends, the guy in the corner deli, they showed you videos, etc. If everyone but your spouse said he was cheating or she was cheating, that would be a pretty compelling scenario for you, correct?
Yep.
You probably wouldn't be like, they're all lying. Somehow, when it comes to Trump, who so obviously is the most self-serving human being ever to step foot in Washington, somehow when it comes to Trump, it's like everybody's lying. They're all lying. Everything is lying. 62 lawsuits, all the courts are lying. Everybody's in the media. Everybody is lying. I don't know, I'm just fascinated by that phenomenon, that mentality that somebody, tens of millions of people could literally look at the sun and say it's the moon because somebody told me it's the moon. So I don't know if the hearings are going to change those people, but I do believe that the people whose needle we do want to move, I think it's probably having impact. I mean, the people who testified earlier in the week, Rusty Bowers, the Speaker of the House in Arizona, Republican Party Speaker, Brad Raffensperger, we all know his name by now, Secretary of State in Georgia, and Gabriel Sterling, senior official, election official in Georgia. I mean, those guys together with those who testified today, I mean, like I said before, they're all Republicans. They're all Trump guys. They all basically wear like a badge of honor the fact that they voted for him. I mean, like, they're not shy about their heretofore fealty prior to January 6th. Somewhere along the line, somehow, I have no idea other than the fact that it was just too far for them, they did the right thing after January 6th. But up until that point, I mean, people are talking like Rusty Bowers is godlike, but the truth is, with redistricting and all kinds of things, he's, made a career like a lot of Republicans in disenfranchising minority voters and blah, 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 blah. But he is a hero. He's a hero this week because of what he did. It brought tears to my eyes to watch someone like Rusty Bowers have tears in his eyes when he talks about defending the rule of law, the Constitution, and preserving and protecting our democracy. You get the same sense listening to Sterling and Raffensperger and any of these guys, the people who testified today. They're heroes, and it makes you, it confirms, I don't know if you feel the same way, but it confirms for me, it's one thing to believe that we were this close, and I'm holding my fingers up, making a really small gesture, this close to autocracy. It's another thing to sit for hours and listen to how and why, and to really get a sense of, oh my God, we that's not just rhetoric. That's not just, libtard rhetoric. That's, if those guys just went, they turned left instead of turning right. I mean, and this guy, what's his name? Jeffrey Clark. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Where did he come? Like, did Trump just walk into like some cubicle in the Justice Department and go, "Hey, who wants to overthrow the government?" Yeah, and he just raises his hand. Like, it's stunning to me how at the same time we had real heroes, real patriots, we also had way more people, as we know from the last 6 years, who have been so eager and excited to just throw their reputations and careers away. It's truly, I mean, for hundreds of years from now, sociologists and political scientists are going to be studying this whole Trumpism phenomenon, because if there was ever a man who, and I use that word man loosely, by the way, if ever was there, call him a man baby, that's what I like to call him. So if ever there was a man baby who did not deserve an ounce of loyalty in return from the people who worked for him, like, he is the last person on earth you would think anyone would give a shit about, because he's a constant bullying, abusive, narcissist, cares about no one, cares about nothing but himself, and has never demonstrated loyalty to anyone, no matter what they do. I mean, just look at Mo Brooks, right? I mean, Mo Brooks stood outside the Capitol on January 6th and basically helped Trump incite a deadly insurrection. I mean, in Trump world, you can't get more loyal than that, right?
No.
And so what happened to Mo Brooks?
Under the bus after he did his next move.
Yeah. So he learned, just like the rest of them, that it doesn't matter what you do for him. And I've decided that, in my opinion, what rhino, the definition of rhino, what that really means is that someone who basically spent a career in conservative politics, who voted for Trump, was loyal to Trump, yet in the end wouldn't break the law for Trump. That's a rhino. Like, Liz Cheney's a rhino. Liz Cheney. Cheney. When would you ever think that Republicans would ever call a Cheney a Republican in name only? And so that's where we are today. And so we're going to get into the hearings a little bit more. I'm very excited that our guest today is Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's 15th District out in California. He, as you know, or perhaps you don't know, he ran for president in 2020, and he's one of the Trump impeachment managers. So we're going to get his perspective shortly when we bring him on. The thing also about the Trump cult is that in the face of all the evidence, all the lawsuits, you still have people saying things like, "We feel the election was stolen," or "We know in our hearts it was stolen." What does that mean? Right? If I said to you, "Maddie, look up at the sky, you see the sun, it's yellow, it's starting to hurt your face, right? You didn't put sunscreen on, right? It's the sun." You would never look at me and go, "Well, you know what? In my heart, I think it's the moon." Like, what does that mean in your heart? Like, we don't live we live under the rule of law. So if someone shows you facts and evidence and reality, you're supposed to go, "Oh, I didn't realize that." So, and then you start thinking about the things that these people are believing in. Like, today we learned that there were Italian satellites, not Jewish space lasers, but Italian satellites that are going in and changing votes from Trump to Biden.
Because, the Italians have a reputation for being leaders in cyber attacks.
or militarily, or I won't go further than that. But and so Italian satellites, like, and the crazy thing is that our Department of Defense investigated this with the Italian government, saying like, hey guys, imagine that phone call. Hey guys, this may sound a little fucking crazy, but are you using satellites to turn Trump votes into Biden? Nah, we didn't think so. We just, but the big guy asked us to. I mean, it's absolute craziness. And in his own defense, Trump said to this guy, Richard Donahue, who is the former acting deputy attorney general, as if like they're a bunch of morons. Like, you guys may not be following the internet the way I do. Now, just think about that for 5 seconds, right? Here's the United States president, the commander-in-chief, doubting his Department of Defense, his attorney general, because they're not fucking Googling as much as him. Like, and like spending time on 4chan or whatever the hell he gets this shit from. I mean, you gotta laugh because it's insanity. You were gonna say something, Maddie?
No, it's just incredible that he actually gave that to both the Justice Department and the Defense Department to investigate. But it makes you wonder whether he partially believed that or he felt it was a good ruse to steal the election with.
Yeah, well, there's a part of me that's still, and to this day, and I don't know if I'll ever conclusively find out in my head, but whether Trump believes the shit he says and then goes to find supporting documentation and evidence, or whether he knows it's all bullshit. I think what we're starting to see with these hearings is that his intent is pretty clear. Is that he like, there's a certain point to where if everyone in the world tells you something 8 billion times, and these people are in the DOJ, and they are in the Defense Department, and they are in the Supreme Court and every other court in this country, and they are in the right-wing media, et cetera, then just saying I don't believe it is not a judicially accepted defense. You could say I don't believe it's the truth. I don't believe it's law. I don't believe it's this. But that's not how it works. I can't rob a gas station, right? And then go into court 6 months later and say I don't believe that gas belonged to Sunoco. I think it was the people's gas, and I took it. I mean, I'd be behind bars, in 5 minutes. So he probably just spent, which is a whole other conversation, is who was actually running the country during all this Google time. But it's
probably better he was on the Google.
True, that is true. Yeah, well, I'm sure the sociologists and anthropologists and political scientists over time will conclude that for us. But, just imagine this guy sitting around all day, like Googling, trying to, like space lasers and Italian, like he's out of his mind. Like the other thing that's so impressive in watching these hearings is the level of restraint that these people are demonstrating. Because they really want to look and be like, Mr. Chairman, Donald Trump's out of his fucking mind. Seriously. I mean, he is out of his fucking mind. Somebody should come in with a straitjacket right now and take him away because he's crazy.
It reminded me of pilots in planes where an engine has gone out and they're talking to air traffic control calmly, saying we're at 30,000 feet, losing altitude.
Yeah.
And you know that they're in danger of crashing, but they're simply talking.
Well, it's like that guy a few weeks ago who just, the pilot died of a heart attack or something. And he's like, all right, I have no experience, but what do you want me to do? Like, what? I'd be screaming like a 4-year-old. They'd be like, Mr. Ostroy, you have to calm down. Please calm down so we can help guide you to the ground. So the thing that I loved about this week's testimony is like these guys, Donahue and Stephen Engel, who's the former assistant AG for the Office of Legal Counsel, and Jeffrey Rosen, who former acting AG. He replaced Sessions, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like they had there was this meeting that took place, which if you ever like sit with friends and say like, if we could go back in time, what would you want to be? Like, I used to think like, all right, I'd like to be at Woodstock. That would be fun, But I think I'd like to go back to this meeting, the one with Trump and Donahue and Engel and Rosen and Clark, because that just sounds like the most fun thing ever, even though the subject matter was the overthrow of the government.
I thought it was impressive that they were able to talk Trump out of doing what he planned on doing with Clark. I mean, you look at the call logs that they put up today from January 3rd, and incoming calls were listed as Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Clark.
Right. No, right. But the thing that's crazy is that Trump didn't change his mind because he was like, you know what? Shit, you guys are right. This is horrible for America. This is... What was I thinking? I mean, I don't understand. Like, this is not the rule of law. This is not what I swore an oath to defend and protect. No, he didn't do that. He was like, oh, you mean this is going to make me look bad?
Totally.
Shit. You guys are going to quit? Really? Come on. Don't you want to come to my party next month at Mar-a-Lago? That's why he changed his mind, because they literally said, if you make this guy AG, we are gone. Everyone, from top to bottom, east to west, hundreds, thousands of employees. It will be the DOJ will be a ghost town. And he was like, oh, all right. I guess that won't make me look good. It's kind of like, remember when the pandemic first started and he wouldn't let the yacht people.
Can't have the numbers.
The cruise. Yeah, can't have. Let them die offshore because the numbers. We don't want the numbers. One of the things I vowed to do over the course of this podcast evolution is to hone my Trump impression because everybody's got one and I want one too. So, except I can't get out of my head what I really hear every time he speaks, which is just like not even words. It's just like a long groan and grunt. It's like one long vocabulary grievance episode. So anyway, so at one point, Clark, who, by the way, is an environmental lawyer, never tried a criminal case, never investigated a criminal case, has no criminal expertise whatsoever. This was Trump's...
I think he has expertise at being a criminal.
That counts for something.
As we saw, the FBI raided his house today.
That's right. They did. The early morning raid. Those are my 3 favorite words.
He was apparently in his pajamas outside.
No doubt, with like Trump figures on his pajamas, like and his MAGA cap. So at one point he's like trying to get everybody to send this letter, to Georgia, to like, hey, we won. Just say we won, like that kind of thing. Anyway, at one point Donahue says to him, "Go back to your office. We'll call you when there's an oil spill," which to me is the greatest. That is probably one of the greatest moments of the Trump presidency. That single line. That should be on T-shirts, mugs. It should be everywhere. And, because Trump told Donahue at different times, just say the election was corrupt. Leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. I mean, how... And I say this to the morons out there. Even if you're a moron, does that not smack of intent? Like, just say the election that we actually lost, we won, and let me do the rest. I mean, is that not intent? Right? Anyway, I could go on and on and on, literally, but I won't. So I'm excited to bring on our guest today. He is a 5-time congressman from California's 15th district. He also ran for president in 2020, and he is an impeachment manager during the Trump impeachment hearing. So without further ado, Congressman Eric Swalwell, welcome into the back room.
Hey, thanks, Andy, for having me on.
Before we really get into things, I just want to say, first of all, that I'm a big fan. I think you're a really smart guy. You're really passionate, full of righteous indignation, as I am. But here's the kicker. You've got balls. And the thing is, I just got over a bout with COVID, so I had a lot of time to sit in the house and annoy everybody I know. with questions for this week, and this may come as a shock, but there's a lot of Democrats out there who wouldn't normally associate their party with people with balls. So my question to you is, why are there more Democrats like you, people who can stand up and fight against the things that we see today that need more than just good guys in a room?
Well, thank you, Andy. And look, the way I look at these issues is that they're not, at least in these trying times, that it's not about Republicans versus Democrats. It's not progressives versus conservatives. It's not left versus right. It really is right versus wrong, freedom versus fascism, and only one of them is going to get out of the arena. It's kind of like it's almost a cage match, and only one is getting out. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that it's freedom that wins. And so to me, it just feels too existential, too binary right now to really hold anything back.
Yeah, well, on that note, you tweeted, I think last week, and I quote, "The fight for the future isn't between liberal versus conservative. It's between truth versus lies. It isn't between Democrat versus Republican. It's between democracy versus autocracy." I happen to share that opinion, and unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people in this country that share that view that you and I share. Why do you think there aren't more people who don't see this as more than just your usual political difference of opinion? That the grave consequences that we're talking about right now, which is the potential death of democracy. Why are there tens of millions of people who still don't get that? What do you think?
I mean, I would say first, it's our job to make sure they get it, right? Like if they don't get it, then we have to make sure they do. And as far as why they don't, I mean, I think we could sit here all day and point the finger at, a social media that has become rather unrestricted, unrestrained in its ability to just let falsities fly, and a government that was led for 4 years by somebody who told thousands, tens of thousands of lies. And so it's been dizzying, it's been debilitating, it's been demoralizing. And so that's why I said it's on us not to put up the white flag, but to really wave the red flag, I guess. I'll tell you, a couple of days ago, I was sitting at an airport waiting for a delayed flight to board, and I heard two people sitting next to me talking. I don't think they recognized me. I just had my headphones in and I was just looking at email, but I could hear them loudly talking about, why are we focused on the January 6th stuff? They haven't done anything yet on Hunter Biden's laptop. Is he really going to get away with this? And I just thought, man, like we have to connect with more people, and we have to overcome, as you just said, the lies that have been aimed to distract this investigation. And so I will credit the January 6th Commission in that you are seeing the needle move, that more and more folks are starting to tune in and recognizing how fragile our country is. And one colleague of mine who is running in a very tough district for re-election told me on Tuesday night, he said, something is changing. He said, I can't put my finger on it, but at home, something is changing. He said, we're seeing it with a small number of Republicans who are starting, when we make our phone calls, knock on doors, go to, the farmers markets, we're just starting to see, concern about what going all in on the other side is. And he said that his staffer told him, well, yeah, but it's only 10 to 20% of Republicans that we're seeing do that. And then his response was, well, God, I mean, that's 10 to 20% of Republicans this election have second thoughts about an insurrection party. That we keep the House, we keep the Senate. So it may feel like we're not changing enough minds, and I may beat myself up that the two guys next to me at the airport bar are talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. But if just one Republican, in a room is starting to have second thoughts, like that's going to be enough in a very thin majority that we have right now in a very fractured electorate.
Yeah, well, I think it's all about managing expectations, and if the goal is to win over all of the hardcore cultists, that's not a very realistic expectation. But if we're looking to peel away, a small percentage of moderate Republicans and to influence a lot of those people in the middle, which could move a needle on an election, then I have to agree with you. One of the things I was going to ask you, which you've already spoken to, is that there does seem to be something changing. There seems to be momentum. Even just looking at what happened with gun reform, like there seems to be something else that's happening in government right now, in Washington, among the Republican Party, that I won't quite say they're afraid, but that I think they're perking up and with an eye on the midterms and not feeling so cocky that this is theirs to win. I still believe.
Andy, it's such a great point. Yeah, Andy, let me just to frame your point, because I think it's such a great point. Look what's happening right now. I will vote tomorrow. I will vote on the gun safety bill, and in the Senate, the leader of the Republican Senate, where it's an even majority in the Senate, and they have to defend a lot of tough seats. They're defending a tough seat in Wisconsin, an open seat in Ohio, an open seat in North Carolina, an open seat in Pennsylvania, a tough seat in Florida. The leader of the Republican Party in the Senate is voting and delivering the vote to pass a gun safety bill. The leader of the Republican Party in the House is telling his colleagues the exact opposite. So that's why I think, to your point, kind of put a button on it. This is not Newt Gingrich's Contract with America, where they were disciplined, they were focused, they were singing off the same sheet of music. Now, these guys are all over the place. And that's where I think we have an opportunity, because so many of them are outside the mainstream.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Let's hop back to the hearings for a second and go a little micro. And I'll first start off by saying I think what's happened the last 2-3 weeks with the hearings is fantastic. I think there's a really compelling case that's being made. I think it's an important case that's being made, and I do think it is moving a needle. The flip side to that is, again, home with COVID, asking all my friends what they think. I'm not sure I understand, like, why are the hearings only a couple of hours? Why are they not all in prime time? Why are we waiting almost another month for the next one? It's like, we've got momentum, right? That's the one thing we can all kind of agree. Like the last week or so, there's some serious momentum, and now like, wah, wah. Yeah. Like what's going to happen? The American people, if we're relying on them to stay with us, that 3-week period, that 4-week period, whatever, I don't know. I mean, is what's being done so far enough? Or, when I think about Benghazi and I think about if this was the other side, Hillary testified for 11 hours. They got her to testify. Some of the people we want won't even show up. So it's like, as good as it might seem so far, is it enough?
I would rate them as far exceeding my expectations, and I'll tell you why. So first, on the length of the hearing, I was a prosecutor. I've given dozens of closing arguments, and I learned through experience and through mentors that less is more. And so I do think these 2-hour hearings are better than a 8-hour hearing. If you can really, and you can tell that this team has done their homework. They've already interviewed thousands of witnesses. Every witness who is testifying is not testifying for the first time. So you're not asking them a question that you don't know the answer to. So through their testimony, you are animating for the viewers in a succinct, purposeful way what happened. But you're still presenting a lot of new information. So it's not seen as, oh, well, what are you telling me that I don't know? I mean, every hearing learning something that we don't know. Now, why are they pushing them into July? I would say they're victims of their own success, in that information begets information, courage begets courage. So because the hearings have been deemed credible, I believe, by the public, and they have not been panned by the mainstream, you're seeing witnesses come forward who were not coming forward. And I think the documentarian who has hours of footage of Trump right before, during, and after the insurrection, he wanted to come forward and do the right thing. And so now they have to pore over his footage, talk to him, talk to people around him. And that, to me, if that means they have to kick the hearings out a few more weeks to give us an even more impactful presentation that lands with the American people, I would rather that than to just check a box and say we held a hearing regardless of the time of day. So I think everything about what they're doing is purposeful. And I would just, again, I don't have a single criticism of them. I just want to continue to hear as much as possible that the plotters are still at large and the plotters are seeking to be in charge. That this is not, we're not doing an after action autopsy of what happened. Like this is a present threat. That has to stick with the American people. That this is happening again right now.
And so when you watch, look, we all know people like Brad Raffensperger. His name has been out there for a long time now, and we know his story. But I think this week we were introduced for the first time to people like Rusty Bowers. And I was telling the guys here in the studio that I literally welled up with tears when I saw him well up with tears talking about his oath to the rule of law and to democracy and to the Constitution. And, you know, if you're sitting back at home and you're wondering, if you're thinking that this is a witch hunt, it's a partisan witch hunt, like every one of these people testifying is a Republican. Every one of them was a Trump appointee. Is it surprising to you that the depth of the people who were involved to literally push us back off the ledge at the precipice of autocracy?
It's reaffirmed, my faith in people and in public service, and that there were people there who were the firewall against Trump's corruption. And look, one of the takes on Bowers, because he was asked, I guess, after the hearing, if he would still vote for Trump, and he said if it was Trump, Biden, he would, and he was panned for that. But to be honest, Andy, I don't give a shit who he wants to vote for as long as he's going to do the right thing. Like if it's a free country, if he wants to vote for Donald Trump after everything Donald Trump put him through, fine, that's his right. But if he's in a position of power, and we already know that he's not going to bend because of a corrupt president, that's what matters to me more right now. And so I think to what you said, like that was encouraging. But if Donald Trump is elected again to the presidency, he will learn from his past mistakes. He will completely corrupt the agencies that decide, our elections and carry out justice. He will have learned from that blindly faithful to you and the cult, and so he will learn from that, and we won't have, people like Bowers in statewide positions, and we won't have people, like Donahue and others at the Department of Justice.
And so do you think he's going to be indicted? To your point, and should he be indicted?
Well, I would just say the number of people who have had their homes searched and where those people land as far as closest to Trump should concern him, right? Because this looks to be a bottom up or outside in classic criminal investigation, and this was the largest crime committed against our democracy, and he was at the center of it. And so I believe it to the Attorney General. I think there's overwhelming evidence of Trump's guilt, and I recognize, as I said, as a prosecutor, of making sure you have a case you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. But the trick with Trump, I think, is that because he commits his crimes in plain sight, there's this who would be too stupid to say it out loud element here, where we think, well, maybe there's something he's concealed, when he really hasn't concealed anything because he thinks he's above the law. And
right.
And that shouldn't be a shield for him. That should be, his weakness.
So you have the distinction of being a congressperson who has filed a lawsuit against not just Trump, but the evil offspring. and Rudy and was it Mo Brooks? Right, Mo Brooks.
That's right.
In a nutshell, for our listeners, can you just give the elevator pitch on what this suit is and if there's been any recent developments?
Yeah, so the suit seeks to hold Donald Trump and others around him responsible for assembling the mob, telling the lies that incited the mob, and then aiming the mob at the Capitol to stop me and my colleagues from conducting a count, and then the trauma that ensued on me, my colleagues, and our democracy. And so we actually, the hardest motion in all of the proceedings is called a motion to dismiss. And so Donald Trump asserted that he had absolute immunity because he was president at the time, and we recently defeated his motion to dismiss in federal court. So it is now, he's appealing his motion to the ruling on the motion to dismiss now to the circuit court, and we're hoping to have an update, on when we will argue before the circuit court, and we hope that happens, before the fall.
Right, and Brooks has lost his immunity, right, for his role on.
So the House did not. Yeah, what Brooks asked the House counsel, the lawyer for the House of Representatives, to declare that Brooks was immune because he was working for the House at the time. The House counsel said, no, you were not immune. This is not in your scope of employment. Does not include inciting a mob. The court, though, I want to be accurate here. The court did dismiss on Brooks, which is fine. We have preserved what we think we have to do if we want to appeal that. The most important actor in this scheme is Donald Trump, who is the architect of the insurrection. And Trump's motion to dismiss was thrown out. And so we are proceeding against Trump. And look, I think he is in a season of legal reckoning right now, where criminal and civil complaints are, kind of gathering momentum, and he's going to face that very soon.
And so overall, I mean, I'm an optimistic guy. I try to be as glass half full as I can. Is there any reason for optimism about anything substantive? I know we just saw the gun reform bill make historic progress through in a bipartisan way, but just all the things we're talking about, which for the last 6 years have been so heavy and so dangerous and so threatening to our it's just an existential crisis that we've never experienced. Is there reason for optimism about anything? If you want to talk to the glass half full people out there.
Yes, I would just say if we want it, we can have it, and if we're willing to work hard enough for it and fight for it, we can have it. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but I do believe that an overwhelming amount of Americans still want a country that believes in freedom. Freedom to make your own healthcare decisions about your body, freedom to vote, and that we choose voting, not violence, freedom from, violence, freedom that you'll be able to hug your kid when they come home from school and you won't have to worry about them. The freedom to dream because we invest, in the future. And so if we, through who we register now, who we keep engaged all the way to November, who we mobilize and march to the ballot box, we can win. And we are not demoralized at all. I see this in the people who show up for the marches. I see this in the people who show up, to community events, people who have high expectations about what they want us to do. This is not 2010. This is going to be, I think Sean Maloney, the DCCC chair, said it's a knife fight and 40 phone booths. About 40 districts that are going to be competitive, and the difference is going to be between 1,000 and 2,000 votes in each district. This is not a red wave that is hitting us. I think the worst hit us in 2020 when the Trump surge beat a lot of good Democrats who had even more votes in 2020 than they did in 2018, but the Trump surge washed them out. Here, in a very divided country, we are competing for a small pool of the electorate. We're motivated. Clearly the Republicans are motivated, but we believe in community. They believe in chaos. And if we frame it that way, I think we can have what we want. We just have to be willing to work for it and fight for it.
And so do you think a culture war issue like, the Roe v. Wade and abortion, like that's going to have an impact in moving that needle for November? And that's what I keep hearing people say.
I said yes, and if we frame it around freedom, again, it's about your freedom to make your own decisions, not a government mandated pregnancy, but you choosing what you want for your body. And again, the Republicans, they used to be the party when it came to abortion. They would put in, exceptions for health of the mother, rape, incest, etc.
Right.
They don't even put that in anymore, and that's why they're so far outside the mainstream. And look at them on guns. Recently, in a poll from a group called 97%, this organization, they polled just gun owners, thousands of gun owners. 87% wanted background checks. 76% wanted safe storage laws. 67% wanted red flag laws. So the Republicans, they're not just outside the mainstream of America, they're outside the mainstream of gun owners. And that's where I think if we frame it as to what the consequences are of electing Republicans right now, this MAGA Republican chaos party, we can win, and we can build on the infrastructure package that we passed. We can build on, the Recovery Act that, still needs to, see relief for restaurants and more COVID dollars for schools and medical centers that have been hit by it. And we can build on the Build Back Better agenda that did not, fully make its way through. So there's a lot we can do, but it's not going to be easy. Like we can't wish our way into the majority.
Right. I agree, and I do believe that the midterms is ours to lose. One last quick thing before I let you go. What we're doing here at the back room, because music is such a window into someone's soul, we started asking people for their top 5 artists of all time. Actually, last week we had Paul Rudd on, and we even asked him what his top 5 ventriloquists of all time were. And believe it or not, he named off 5 ventriloquists in a matter of like 30 seconds.
You knew 5 ventriloquists?
So he knew 5 ventriloquists, and so we're not gonna do that to you unless you know 5.
No.
But we do want to know quick top 5 of your musical artists of all time.
I mean, my top Taylor Swift. One of the biggest Swifties, I think, not just in Congress, I think in the House.
I would not have gone there.
Oh, yeah. I love you too, the band, but I do love your show.
Of course.
I would say in the country realm, I'm a huge Eric Church fan. Also, I think his work in gun safety is good. I'm going to put the Rolling Stones in my top 5. And then I have to say Bob Marley. I mean, that's just, who turn off Bob Marley if he's on the radio. So there you go.
All right. Well, listen, this was great. We hope you'll come back sometime, perhaps when you win your lawsuit or before. And we appreciate your time. And good luck out there. And keep fighting. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, Andy. Of course. Get better, too. All right.
Thanks. All right. That was a great interview with Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's a really... he's a fighter for truth, justice, and the American way, as we say in the comic world. I'm not in the comic world. I don't know why I said that. One last thing I want to mention, which is I think I'm going to say half comical, half serious, but it's actually 99.9% serious. It's the Texas GOP convention that happened last weekend. This is the official platform of the Texas GOP. This is not some rogue little, Tea Party band within this is the Texas GOP platform. And I'm only going to give you the highlights. Okay, so Biden was not legitimately elected. January 6th wasn't an insurrection. Let's repeal the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Life begins at fertilization. Fertilization. Homosexuality is, quote, unquote, an abnormal lifestyle choice. Texas should secede from the U.S., and Congressman Dan Crenshaw, the guy with also Special Ops, Air Force, I think, whatever, Navy, he served this country admirably and lost a freaking eye in the process, so he gets props. They called him Eye Patch McCain. And why do they do this? Because he was critical of Russia. And I'm going to repeat that for the kids at home who didn't really understand it the first time. because he was critical of Russia. That's today's Texas GOP. So the question I ask is, where do we go from there? Right? Like, talking with Congressman Swalwell, it's like, all right, we have reason to be optimistic, and, the midterms could, we could hang on to the House and the Senate and blah, 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 blah. But then, I put my glass half full hat on, and I think, is that the beginning? What's happening in Texas, especially if you lump it in with everything else we're seeing, is that the beginning of our future? Or are we headed to brighter days? I don't know. Maddie, you got an opinion on that? Jen, do you have an opinion on that? I mean, because that's not just like, we believe in lower taxes. We believe in deregulation. We're fucking crazy. We're certifiably crazy.
It's Texas. That's really all we can say.
Yeah, but Texas has Beto.
If he can win.
And Mark Cuban. Like, there are cool people in Texas.
And they have Austin.
Wait. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I was shocked when I saw that. I was absolutely, utterly shocked, and it made me think that we're fucked. We're fucked. But, in the end, the optimistic Andy wins out, and I agree with you that it is Texas. And that might be the reason why, whether it's next year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now or 10 years from now, Texas will be blue. Texas will be blue because the element that subscribes to that kind of insanity is shrinking. And we talked about that with the congressman. And that's where I think, for me, when I go to bed at night and I lay my head down and I decide whether I'm going to have serious nightmares or whether I might have an actual good night's sleep because I think the future can look brighter, that's where I go. Because I think we're always going to have racism, we're always going to have violence, we're always going to have crazy. But I don't think we're always going to have Trump. I don't think we're always going to have Trumpism. And I don't think we're going to have a Republican Party over time that is ruled by the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Gosar and Mo Brooks and all these people who, by the way, are actively seeking pardons or sought pardons from Donald Trump, as Adam Kinzinger said today. There's only one reason why you request a pardon. It's because you committed a crime. I don't know about you guys, Jen, Maddie. I've never requested a pardon from anyone. And that's because I'm not guilty of committing a crime. I don't need a pardon. You don't commit the crime, you don't need the pardon, right? So the fact that, like Georgia, like Arizona, Texas might be the next big shit to fall our way, all right, that's definitely reason for optimism. So
I'll give you the pessimism.
Oh, here we go. We're getting it, folks. Get ready.
Do we have that 10 years?
We do, because, well, yeah. I mean, is this are we going into the climate change part of the conversation?
No, I meant, do we have 10 years of democracy to protect for Texas to turn blue?
Well, that's the question. If I knew the answer to that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be working for Congressman Swalwell on his optimism team.
You'd be selling NFTs.
Yeah, whatever that is. Do you guys know what NFTs are and all that? Crypto and what is it? What's the other?
We
thing?
could do another show about scams.
Crypto. No, what am I thinking of? No, not Bitcoin, but like blockchain. When someone walks up to me and says block, I really want to smack him in the head. It's like what I used to feel about bandwidth. I'd be like, grab him by the collar and go, what is bandwidth? Okay, I need to know what this is. Now it's blockchain.
Well, bandwidth isn't the Ponzi scheme,
but
blockchain might be.
Oh, great! Absolutely great. All right, kids. Thanks for listening. You have it right there. Episode 2 in the can. Don't forget, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So leave us a message at 845-307-7446. That's 845-307-7446. Or shoot us an email at backroomandy@gmail.com. And like I said, if you behave yourselves, maybe we'll read some of this stuff on the air. You don't have to agree with us. You don't even have to like us. Just be nice. Like Mama used to say, just be nice. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. Once again, I want to thank Maddie Rosenberg and Jen Hamoud, the amazing engineering opinion team. And a big thank you again to our guest, Congressman Eric Swalwell. So keep your eyes and ears on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards. And we hope you'll join us again for another episode of The Back Room. Have a great week.